The microphones work. Did anybody's microphone work? No.
Hello. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're in charge then. Is that the only one?
Yeah, these two.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they won't be able to hear.
Yeah,
They won't be able to hear.
Can you hear us, Linda? I can hear you very loud and clear, yeah.
Oh, we can. All right.
I can hear very clearly. There's an awful lot of background noise.
Yes, I can hear as well.
Okay. Right. Morning, everyone. We appear to not have the microphones lighting up in the room, so we can't necessarily tell whether they're on or off right now. So I propose to get the meeting started. If those on screen are having problems at all and it's too noisy or whatever, can you just indicate to us? Because it's hard to tell what's on and what's not. So I'll get the meeting started. Welcome everybody to Investment Board meeting. Get the agenda started. So first of all, can I take the apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Slay, Councillor O'Boyle, Councillor Simpkins, and I think we've got Councillor Andrew standing in for Councillor Bell.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'm clearly chairing the meeting in Councillor Slay's absence. Okay, we've got the substitute. So any declarations of interest? Okay, right, to item 4 then, you have the minutes of the 24th of July. We did try to hold a meeting in September, but unfortunately we weren't quorate. So these minutes need to be approved. If everybody can remember back to the 24th of July, I think there was one item that has now been, a question has been resolved with Councillor Simpkins and Wolverhampton, so I think that's been sorted. And the Holbrook Lane, see if that'll be covered in the private minutes. So is everybody happy to approve those? Yes. Here? Yes. Brilliant. Okay. Okay, so first substantive item, then item 5, the investment programme update and dashboard. So I'm going to hand over to Ian to just run through status right now.
Yep. Good morning. I'm taking it can be heard quite well. So funding commitment at the end of September is unchanged, 853.7 million. First funding available as approved by the CA board, with remaining sums up to the limit of 871 fully utilised by the earmark contributions approved by the WNCA board. Costs incurred on the drawings to the end of August is £520.2 million. During the period we last met, WMCA officers have not exercised delegated powers to approve any change requests or new business cases. So that's since the July meeting. However, the CEO has exercised delegated powers to approve 2 SIF loans due to the last investment board being in Cora and commercial requirements to agree those loans or start the process for due diligence. Those were a loan for a unit on an industrial estate, 2 West Beach developments, and the acquisition, demolition and preparation of the site GKN in Erdington. The investment board are asked to note that the WNCA are in the process of complying with an interim gateway review of the investment programme, as are all combined authorities, and that's a requirement of receiving the devolution sums. This will complete in February 24 and involves the evaluation of some of the advanced investment programme projects. The WMCA has submitted their plan for evaluation to DLUC, called the Local Evaluation Framework. And we obviously greatly appreciate cooperation from officers at local authorities in terms of sampling, putting together that information by DLUC. when you're ready, Chair, I can move on to IP dashboard.
You okay with that? Any questions? No? Okay.
So the investment dashboard you find on pages 17 to 25. Within it, you'll see ACG projects that are recorded as having approved funding. Within those, there are various sub-projects which we have not broken out as yet into projects in their own right. 26 projects have now reached their completion stage of funding by the investment programme. An evaluation of these projects is commencing, and while some of them will form part of the Gateway Review. You'll notice that there are 8 projects that have a red status. They're all on completion dates. There are a few more kind of in amber, so we're hoping that change requests will be received from local authorities and others in a timely fashion, so we can avoid those flag issues to the board.
Any questions from board? Any of the weather items? No? Everybody happy on screen? Yep. Right, item 6 then takes us to the SIF dashboards. Nick?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So items 6, 7 and 8 are the WMCA investment dashboards managed by WMDC. They are the public information dashboards, and I provide a full update under private session, if I may. Thank you.
Questions on the dashboards from anyone? Quite a lot this morning.
Maybe private.
Yeah, private, yeah. Okay, and Nick, you've got the item 7 as well.
Sorry, yeah, there's 6, 7 and 8 are the
all together.
public dashboards.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll provide a full update under private session.
Okay, great, thank you. So item 9, we've got the full business case now, Global West Midlands. So I'm going to hand over to Neil Rami to take through the papers. We're here to approve a quite substantial, or the release of a substantial amount of funding. So Neil, do you want to take everyone through the paper? I don't think they will.
You'll find that you've picked up on those mics for the benefit of.
Can you hear me outside of the room? Yeah, you can. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues. So this morning we are seeking the release of 12.2 million of CA funding for growth company up to 31st of March 2025 for what we've called the Global West Midlands programme. The programme forms the basis of the business plan, which was agreed by EGB in July from the Growth Board, and was obviously formed to deliver the local as well as regional priorities. The programme's broken down into 4 areas. First is enhancing profile and reputation of the region. Second is about creating good jobs for local people by landing 117 investment projects by the end of the programme period. The third is facilitating the regeneration of the built environment by landing 3 capital investment projects by March 25. And the fourth is creating and sustaining vibrant destinations by securing 12 sporting events, 11 business conferences, and a range of visible economy metrics. Now, the funding package is quite complex, with some funds that have already been agreed, released to enable the development of the FPC and commence the delivery of the programme. But the 12.2 is comprised as follows. So it's 9.9 million of legacy and enhancement funding, 1.6 million of UK SPF shared prosperity funding, and 0.7 million of core CA funding. Including the funds already released and commercial income, this creates a total package of 22.5 million, of which 0.7 million have been allocated to. So I'm pleased to report, Chair, that we are currently on track to meet or exceed targets as set out in the business plan. And we've yet to begin the sort of substantive campaign activity, which is obviously contingent on the release of the funding today. I'm also pleased to report that, as was agreed by the review of the growth company, we've put in place enhanced reporting arrangements. So we're now meeting with officers and politicians at each authority on a quarterly basis to review progress, discuss opportunities and any challenges to deliver. We've covered each of the local authorities. I think we have Sandwell this week. And I think we still have to do also, but we're pretty much there. So the other important point that came out of the review was that our board be representative of each local authority area, and I'm pleased to report that that's now happened. Increased transparency and activity and accountability. So whilst there's clearly still a lot to do, and we are still, I guess, at the start of the process, I'm pleased to say that I think we're on track, and obviously if we secure the full funding today, I hope to continue to work with colleagues here and across the region.
So, members, questions, anything you need answering at this point? The risk and appraisal report did recommend a condition about appointing the SRO.
Yeah.
That the reporting would be monthly, is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. It's just really, I think, for us, how we want the reporting, because I know it's going to the economic board, isn't it? So what would members here wish to see? An update, because we have got a sort of really, it's quite a confined window, isn't it? This is all going to happen up to early 25. So would members want additional reporting here? 6-month update, just a written report update or something?
Fine.
That be acceptable? Is that what you'd want? Okay, so if we can put that into place, just an update so the investment board can see ongoing how it's all working out. And I know there was, I think, a query sort of early on about the jobs output. You know, we were obviously very interested in the outputs, and I don't think that was perhaps covered so much in the report, and it's perhaps quite difficult to define. And that may be something that's ongoing.
Particular point was around jobs, Councillor Grinsell.
Okay, well, well, the number of jobs, and then they may not come into fruition until perhaps after the project has finished. So it might be quite difficult to define at this point.
Well, the figures that we've included that go in the FBC are what we expect to see by the end of March 2025. So it's over that
So as the project goes along, you'll have
And
a
I'm sure they'll-
indication then what
and I'm sure there'll be
potentially will
further
achieved later.
after that, absolutely.
Okay, well, that can be hard. So members, everybody happy to approve the release of funds? Yep, I think you have approval.
Thank you very much.
Nice and easy. Okay, so where are we now? We need to, oh no, it's Sandwell, isn't it next? A Sandwell Aquatic Centre, so item 10. I think we've got Simon Hall on screen.
I'm going to send that introduce that.
Oh, yes, sorry, Mubashir, sorry, I didn't recognise you there.
I stuck in there. So I'm Mubashir Ajaz, I'm the head of health at West Midlands Combined Authority. And we just wanted to kind of introduce the piece, and then I'll get Simon and Ben to come in and actually talk you through the paper. Previous meeting, don't know exactly which one, but the investment board did agree that all Commonwealth Games Legacy Enhancement Fund business cases come to the investment board for approval. So this report summary is kind of seeking the investment board's approval to give Sandwell MBC a maximum of a grant of 1.395 million pounds of the 2 million that the CA board agreed allocation fund to the evidence-based forecasted uplift in energy costs from October 2023 to March 2025. The board approves the release of 604,000 of the 2 million allocation to the region in line with the CA change control process. See the proposal here. And like I said, the report will be presented in detail by Ben Percival, the Assistant Director of Economy at Sandwell MBC, and Simon Hall from my team as Strategic Lead for Wellbeing and Prevention They've both led the business case work and gone through the CA project assurance assessment, as well as the business justification case, both of which are in your packs, I presume. So I will hand over to Ben and to Simon.
Thank you. Simon, did you want to go first?
No, you can.
Thanks everybody for giving us the opportunity to explain our project to you. So as you'll be aware, after the games, a process of legacy build was undertaken to transform the aquatic centre to its community operation while still retaining a pool that's capable of hosting regional, national and international events. It opened in July this year and it's doing phenomenally well. Weekly attendances are over 15,000. We've got more than 2,000 children on Learn to Swim programs, 4,500 gym members, and we've got 46 schools already delivering school swimming from the site. Now, as large consumers of energy, leisure centres have been seriously impacted by the recent increases in utility costs. UK Active have indicated that 40% of authorities are considering facility closures and restrictions as a result of increased energy costs. The particular challenge that we've got with the aquatic centre is its scale. There's somewhere in the region of 10 million litres of water in the aquatic centre. And I think that's the key reason why we're hoping to get legacy enhancement funding support. Is this is a facility that is not at the scale that Sandwell Council would build solely to service Sandwell residents, especially with us already having pools at Portway, West Bromwich, Tipton, Wensbury and Hayden Hill. This is a regional facility capable of supporting the entire region. We've estimated our utility costs based on both consumption and tariff. Consumption, we're looking at 4.6 million kilowatt hours of gas every year and 1.4 million kilowatt hours of electricity. And we're using the tariffs based on best industry estimates, looking at both broker costs and our own energy manager, and we're continually tracking the tariffs. So November last year, the annual cost pressure for the aquatic centre was calculated at 1.3 million. Right now it's calculated at 557,000. And that's an important factor that, as Mubashir indicated in his introduction, Sandwell Council are only requesting support for what the actual cost pressure becomes. So we're already in a position to release 600,000 of the initial £2 million to be reallocated to other projects, and so we will only claim what we actually need. And the current budget pressure as of right now, our best estimate is 947,000, but we're requesting 1.39, reflecting the volatility of the energy markets. But any unspent funds do get released back to the combined authority for reallocation. In terms of what would happen if we didn't get enhancement funding, that would be a real challenge for Sandwell Council. Sandwell is already a very high spending authority on recreation and sport. We currently spend £15.91 per resident, and against our statistical neighbours of £10.14, so already 50% ahead of our statistical neighbours. So if that energy cost had to be consumed by the sport and leisure portfolio, it would be certainly there would certainly be the potential that we'd have to close another centre to mitigate these costs. And that's what we've modelled in the business case in terms of the no funding scenario. The technical note in the economic case, it's Appendix C, models what would be lost if a centre was to close in terms of the health, education and crime benefits due to regular physical activity, the well-being benefits from engagement in physical activity, and the jobs that would be lost. The benefits of the funding are many. Huge potential for maintaining that high standard provision for residents, and as I've outlined, at the moment the Sandwell Aquatic Centre is absolutely flying. We know that swimming and fitness are most important to get our residents more active, It would avoid the very troubling reputational damage of us having to close a centre as a result of the Aquatic Centre or the Commonwealth Games. And as is indicated in the business case, there's a net present social value of more than £2 million from this project, and also a benefit cost ratio of 2.46. Finally, just in terms of what may happen after 31st of March 2025, Sandwell Council is acutely aware that this is time limited funding, and at the end of this funding, the whole responsibility returns to Sandwell Council. We intend to continue to work with partners to resolve the long-term funding of our facilities. Fortunately, brokers are estimating a significant drop in energy tariffs by the summer of 2025. And that fundamentally this is an industry-wide problem. Colleagues will be aware that the government have responded with their swimming pool support fund, which unfortunately the Aquatic Centre isn't eligible for, both as a new facility and it's not in itself at risk of closure. We are, however, applying to the phase 2 of the swimming pool support fund, where SAC is eligible. And we intend to submit an application for capital improvements, hopefully later today. But most fundamentally, the legacy enhancement funding gives us some breathing space to continue to track utility markets, to ensure that the Aquatic Centre and our other leisure centres are as energy efficient as possible, and to make whatever changes might be required to rebalance our budget to take into account this pressure in the future. I'll now hand over to Simon to continue the case. Simon, I think you're on mute.
Sorry for that Monday morning, old chestnut. So let me continue. If the investment board approve that investment today, the CA grant award to Sandwell Council will stipulate that the council will cash flow this project, as the CA will only pay in arrears on monthly actual and energy cost expenditure. The grant funding conditions will relate to the Commonwealth Games legacy enhancement funding as imposed by the CA by DCMS, and will be incorporated into the grant agreement, ensuring any risk and obligations imposed on the CA are transferred to Sandwell NBC. The grant agreement will also provide a situation where if there are any further underspends or actual overspend, ensure that the CA will not make payments in excess of the actual grant that we're stipulating in the award. Through the detailed financial forecasting, as Ben explained, the CA agreed with Sandwell that the business justification case would make the case for a maximum of that £1.39 million grant. This leaves £604,246 balance against that £2 million allocation. In line with the board's approval of the Commonwealth Games legacy enhancement funding change control policy, this balance of 604,000 will be first shared between the Regional Plan for Growth and the Community Grants Programme, creating additional investment for the region. The responsibility for implementing this change control policy lies with Ed Cox, the CA's Director of Strategy, Economy and Net Zero. Any further underspends identified through this monitoring up until 31st March 2025 will be treated the same. Now I'll pass back over to Mubashir.
Well, I suppose I think in summary, we're essentially asking for your sign off on the paper and the suggestions, the recommendations as presented by Simon and Ben, and here to answer any of the further questions that you might have.
Lovely. Thank you. So questions on the Aquatic Centre and the approval of the funding. So anybody got any questions? Any on screen? No, I mean, I don't know whether anybody's visited the facility. I mean, it's apt if you managed to get there during the Commonwealth Games. It is an amazing facility. So, yeah. So obviously we would be agreeing the maximum grant, the 1.3. The release of the 6.
Chair, there is a question. Yeah.
Councillor Court.
I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to speak on this item. I'm not sure about my status on this board. I received the papers this morning, but just a couple of points I would like to make if members are happy. I mean, the support for the Aquatic Centre received, I think it's fair to say, very strong support at the CA board. There was a regional desire that we should do the best we can here, and that it is a very big facility. I just, being a nitpicking lawyer, I look at page 115 of the papers, which talks about target objectives, and it says enhanced leisure provision in Sandwell, and yet reference was made earlier on to this being a regional facility, which it doesn't seem really mentioned in the business case. Now, I would have thought it ought to be, it should be a regional facility. Be interesting to know actually what steps are being made by the CA or anyone else to make it, a regional facility by publicity or whatever, and whether possibly the business case understates it in terms of it just refers to Sandwell.
To come back on that, Bashir?
I mean, first of all, I mean, I'll let Ben answer in a second, but I think to your point, Councillor Courts, I think it is the latter. It is understated here in a sense, and we do believe this is a regional facility, and it is for the betterment of sport and physical activity within the region, and it is in line with what we're trying to do in a wider ecosystem of sport and physical activity through the combined authority. But to your greater point about if we can actually publicize this across West Midlands a bit more, I think, Ben, let me just bring you in, please.
Thanks, Mubashir. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a facility of regional and indeed hopefully national significance. I mentioned earlier that we've got 46 schools already swimming from the site. 11 of those are non-Sandwell schools. 11 of those are from the wider region. We've got I think we've got 3 regional events on the balance of this year, and a large number of regional swimming events already booked for next year. We're hoping to bring the national diving competition to Sandwell and to the region next year. And absolutely, when we look at our data around where our users are coming from, they're coming from far afield, much further than just Sandwell. I think in terms of the business case, one of the challenges that we had when we were putting this together is we had to model what the impact was if we didn't fund the aquatic centre. And in reality, it would be disingenuous of me to say if we didn't fund the aquatic centre, we would close the aquatic centre. We wouldn't. But we may have to close one of our other smaller facilities to mitigate that cost. And it's the closure of one of those other centres, one of those Sandwell-based centres, if you like, that is modelled in the business case. So that's perhaps explains a little more why the business case itself undersells the impact of the aquatic centre.
Okay, good. Would you like to come in?
Just a quick comment and question, really. I think it is vitally important that the region has these facilities in order that we can put on the events that we want to see being put on in the future. But Ben, you mentioned much about how good the facility is. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the detrimental effects it's had on facilities within Sandwell and maybe across the border in other boroughs by sucking all that custom out of other leisure facilities, which may also be another avenue to look at in terms of funding this game?
Thanks, Councillor Andrew. At the moment, we're not tracking any detrimental impact on the other facilities in Sandwell. As colleagues will probably be aware, the swimming facilities at Langley and Smethwick closed as part of the plan to reopen to open the aquatic centre. We are engaged with our colleagues at the Black Country Be Active partnership to facility plan right across the sub-region, just so that we can see as the aquatic centre develops and reaches maturity, if there is an impact on supply and demand across the region. But at the moment, modelling that we've done with Sport England has indicated that both in terms of swimming pools and sports halls, the aquatic centre fills existing demand. So even with the aquatic centre there, the modelling that we've done with Sport England indicates that there's no oversupply of swimming and no oversupply of football sports halls as a result of this facility.
So just to come back on that, is there any sort of tracking that we might like to see in the future, just to back up the aquatic centre itself, because it's a rather large facility, I have to say.
I think that is a really good point, and it's probably the first time in a while that as a region we've delivered a facility of this scale. And so I think that's a very good idea, and that's an action that certainly Simon and I could take away, is that working with our colleagues and other authorities, we track any changes in demand and in usage as a result of the impact of the aquatic centre.
Okay, good. I think Councillor Hughes from Council wants to come in now.
I think it was always the case that we would have developed a leisure centre in Smethwick in any event. But the fact of the matter is that a few years ago, Sam Moore took a big risk in supporting the Commonwealth game, and the risk was to build a centre which was going to be much bigger than anything we might have envisaged originally. And at the end of the day, it was delivered on time and within budget, and that is down to the officers back at Grange. But councillors at the time took a big risk in actually supporting this, and I think that risk really, we're asking for the combined authority to help us through a period of time, which has been unimaginable in terms of energy costs. In other circumstances, we might not have come back to you for this, and I think that's been explained thoroughly.
Great.
Thank you. So you say there's 46 schools that are now using that facility, and I guess it's picking up on the earlier comments. So where did those 46 schools come from? Where were they going before, or are they totally new to swimming? Because they've got to come from somewhere. So they are to the detriment of a sports facility, or was it just the two that closed?
I know in terms of the Sandwell schools, all but 3 did come from the 2 centres that closed. 3 are, as far as we're aware, new to swimming from this year. In terms of the 11 from out of borough, that's something that I'll have to go away and find out for you.
Okay, thank you. And one other question, having never been, unfortunately, the green credentials, has it got solar panels on the roof and all of the obvious things, or not? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So in terms of what we were asked to do today and to approve today, that 1 to 4 is set out on pages 105 and 106. Is everybody in agreement with everything that's laid out there, the release of the grant? And then obviously we hope for, oh, hang on, I've got a hand indicators in the audience, in the room.
Sorry, Chair. Obviously, one of the key objectives of the legacy funding was to attract major events, national and international events. So certainly from my perspective, very much endorse the need to have this infrastructure, particularly in Black Country, where it's traditionally harder to attract major events. But I've got a slightly different question, if I might. There's clearly an underspend down here, which could be considerable underspend. I don't know who I'm addressing the question to, but given the very time limited constraints on this programme, I'm keen to understand how this board and the CA board is going to manage that underspend. So I can tell you that the major events component of this is heavily oversubscribed. And therefore it would be useful to get clarity on how that underspend will be managed.
Okay, I'll bring Ian in now.
Yeah, within the paper documents, so Commonwealth Games legacy underspend process, which is agreed, the protocol set out is that applies any underspend to plan for growth or the community grants programme. So I believe that the reason for that is because they're easily deployable, particularly the community grants programme. So when we see that coming, it goes. So that was something I think that's been in from the very start. Deal with underspend against the specific headings that was set out. CA board set out kind of how they're going to deal with the grants. So kind of the approval in this particular case is kind of against 2 million set out by CA board. Main reason investment board is saying it's because there was a criteria from CA board that before you have a 2 million pound business case needs to go to the investment board, and that satisfies that criteria with the government. Hopefully that's the team can pick up separately kind of review the.
And so back to the recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everybody happy with those? Hopefully we get further underspend, so you don't need all the funding for the energy costs, and that then will go back into plan for growth and community grants programs. So then it would then be redistributed. So is everybody in agreement with that? Yeah. Okay. Yep. See on the screen approval as well. Good. So that item is sorted. So we're now going to exclude any press and the public. So I don't think we're off. Okay. So item